Welcome to Moments in History channel. In the heart of the Syrian desert, a city of towering columns and sprawling trade routes once challenged the might of the Roman Empire. This was Palmyra, and at its helm was a queen whose ambition, intellect, and courage would echo through the centuries. Her name was Zenobia, and her story is one of a woman who dared to forge an empire of her own. Today, we're journeying back to the 3rd century CE, a time of chaos and crisis for the Roman Empire. It was an era where borders were constantly under threat and emperors rose and fell in the blink of an eye. In this turbulent world, on the eastern fringes of Roman territory, Zenobia was born around the year 240. Little is known about her early life, but ancient sources tell us she was exceptionally intelligent, beautiful, and possessed a spirit that couldn't be contained. She was fluent in multiple languages, including Greek, Aramaic, Egyptian, and Latin, and was deeply versed in history and philosophy. Her education was not just for show, it was the foundation upon which she would build her future. Zenobia entered the world of power and politics when she married Odaenathus, the ruler of Palmyra. At this time, Palmyra wasn't just a wealthy desert city. It was a crucial buffer state for Rome, holding the line against the formidable Sasanian Empire of Persia. Odaenathus was a brilliant military commander, and Zenobia was his trusted partner. She wasn't a queen who stayed behind in the palace. She often rode alongside her husband on military campaigns, enduring the hardships of the desert and learning the art of war firsthand. She commanded respect from the soldiers and proved herself a capable leader in her own right. Together, they strengthened Palmyra and defended the Roman East. Odaenathus was so successful that the Roman Emperor Gallienus granted him the title Corrector of the whole East, effectively making him the de facto ruler of the region. Palmyra was at the peak of its influence under Roman authority. But this golden era came to a shocking and abrupt end in 267 CE. While returning from a campaign, both Odaenathus and his eldest son were assassinated. The exact circumstances are murky, with some theories pointing to a family dispute and others hinting at a Roman plot to remove a leader who had become too powerful. In the wake of this tragedy, Palmyra was left vulnerable. The official heir was Zenobia's young son, Vaballathus, but everyone knew who held the real power. Zenobia stepped into the void, not just as a grieving widow or a temporary regent, but as the undisputed ruler of Palmyra. This was her moment, and she seized it with both hands. Zenobia was no mere caretaker. She had a vision, and it was far grander than simply maintaining Palmyra's status as a Roman client state. She saw the weakness and division within the Roman Empire, and believed she could create something new, a powerful Eastern Empire with Palmyra at its center. She began by consolidating her power. She surrounded herself with brilliant advisors, like the philosopher Cassius Longinus, and fostered a vibrant cultural court that blended Greek, Roman, and Eastern traditions. Palmyra became a hub of intellectual and artistic life, a testament to her sophisticated leadership. But Zenobia knew that culture alone couldn't build an empire. She needed military might. Drawing on the loyalty of the army she had commanded alongside her late husband, she began to look beyond Palmyra's borders. Her ambition was boundless. Her first major move was as audacious as it was brilliant. In 270 CE, while Rome was distracted by internal conflicts and invasions from Gothic tribes, Zenobia launched a full-scale invasion of Egypt. This wasn't just any Roman province. Egypt was the breadbasket of the empire, a source of immense wealth and grain. Her general, Zabdas, led the Palmyrene army south, and with surprising speed, they conquered the province. Zenobia justified this bold action by claiming she was merely securing the province for Rome during a time of instability. It was a clever piece of political maneuvering, but no one was fooled. This was a clear declaration of independence and a direct challenge to Roman authority. With Egypt under her control, Zenobia didn't stop. She turned her armies north and west, swiftly conquering the rest of Roman Syria, Judea, and even parts of Anatolia, which is modern-day Turkey. In just a few short years, she had carved out a massive empire that stretched from the Nile to the Bosporus. She was the undisputed Queen of the East. To solidify her new status, Zenobia began to style herself in imperial fashion. Coins were minted that showed her son Vaballathus alongside the Roman emperor, but soon she began minting coins with her own image, bearing the title Augusta, or Empress. Her son was given the title Augustus. The message was clear. She was no longer a regent acting on behalf of Rome. She was an equal. For a brief, shining moment, the world had three empires: the Gallic Empire in the west, the weakened Roman Empire in the center, and Zenobia's new Palmyrene Empire in the east. She had achieved the impossible, rising from the ruler of a desert city to an empress who rivaled Rome itself. Her court was renowned, her armies were victorious, and her name was spoken with a mixture of awe and fear across the ancient world. But an empire built in defiance of Rome cannot stand unchallenged for long. Back in Rome, a new emperor had come to power. His name was Aurelian, a tough, no-nonsense soldier emperor who was determined to reunite the fractured Roman Empire under his sole rule. He was known as Restitutor Orbis, the restorer of the world. After dealing with threats in the west, Aurelian turned his gaze eastward towards Zenobia. The clash was inevitable. Two of the most formidable leaders of the 3rd century were on a collision course. In 272 CE, Aurelian marched his legions east. Zenobia knew the storm was coming and prepared her defenses. The first major confrontation happened near Antioch. The Palmyrene army, particularly its famed heavy cavalry, fought fiercely, but Aurelian was a master tactician. He feigned a retreat, luring Zenobia's heavy cavalry into a long, exhausting pursuit. Once they were tired and disorganized, Aurelian's forces turned and crushed them. It was a devastating blow, but Zenobia was not one to give up. She fell back to the city of Emesa for a second major battle. Once again, the fighting was brutal, but the disciplined Roman legions prevailed. The Palmyrene army was shattered. With her armies defeated, Zenobia's only remaining hope was to retreat behind the formidable walls of Palmyra itself. She raced back to her capital, hoping to withstand a long siege. Aurelian and his army soon followed, surrounding the magnificent desert city. Aurelian offered her generous terms of surrender, but Zenobia's defiant spirit refused to yield. According to the historian Zosimus, she sent him a letter that dripped with contempt, declaring, "You demand my surrender as if you were not aware that Cleopatra preferred to die a queen rather than to live a captive." But her defiance couldn't change the grim reality. The siege dragged on, and supplies within the city began to dwindle. Zenobia realized that her only chance was to seek help from her old enemies, the Persians. Under the cover of darkness, she slipped out of the besieged city on a swift camel, racing toward the Euphrates River and the Persian frontier. It was a desperate, daring gamble. But Roman scouts were everywhere. They spotted her just as she was about to cross the river. She was captured and brought before Aurelian. The great queen of the East, the woman who had built an empire and challenged Rome, was now a prisoner. With their queen captured, the city of Palmyra surrendered. Aurelian was initially lenient, but after he left, the city revolted again. This time, the emperor's wrath was terrible. He returned and allowed his soldiers to sack the city, destroying much of its splendor and ending Palmyra's golden age forever. So what happened to Zenobia? Ancient sources give us a few different versions of her fate. Some say she starved herself to death out of shame, refusing to be paraded as a captive. But the most widely accepted account is that Aurelian spared her life. He brought her back to Rome for his triumph, a grand parade celebrating his victories. The sources describe her being forced to walk in the procession, laden with so much gold and jewels that she could barely move. It was a humiliating spectacle designed to show the power of Rome and the fate of those who dared to defy it. However, after the triumph, Aurelian reportedly treated her with surprising mercy. He granted her a luxurious villa in Tibur, near Rome, where she lived out the rest of her days in comfort. Her daughters are said to have married into noble Roman families, and her line continued for generations. Even in defeat, Zenobia seemed to maintain a sense of dignity that impressed the Romans. She had lost her empire, but she never lost the regal bearing that had defined her. Zenobia's legacy is complex and enduring. Was she a patriot fighting for her people's independence? or a rebel who betrayed her Roman allies? Was she a freedom fighter or an ambitious conqueror? The truth is, she was likely all of these things. She was a brilliant strategist, a sophisticated diplomat, and a patron of culture. In an age utterly dominated by men, she rose to command armies and rule a vast empire. She saw a moment of weakness in the world's greatest superpower and had the audacity to believe she could build something better in its place. For a few short, glorious years, she succeeded. Her story is a powerful reminder that history is full of incredible figures who challenge our expectations. Zenobia of Palmyra was more than just a queen. She was an empress, a warrior, and a visionary who dared to dream of an empire of her own, and for a time, she made that dream a reality. Her name rightly belongs among the greatest leaders of the ancient world. Thanks so much for watching. If you enjoyed this journey into the life of a warrior queen, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to Moments in History channel for more stories from history. Let us know in the comments which historical figure you'd like to see us cover next. See you in the next one.